Stay with this scene for the next 5 minutes, and you'll watch an entire convoy disappear, frame by frame. First, the jamming grid goes live. Then, the FPVs dive one by one. Fuel trucks, missile trailers, command nodes. Each target hit in pre-coded rhythm. Finally, an intercepted waveform that sends a Pancer battery's missiles chasing ghosts. This is the anatomy of a perfect strike, and the math behind its impossible precision. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The convoy moved along the Black Sea corridor under layers of darkness. 15 heavy trucks loaded with Iranian Fate 110 and Zulfagar missiles. Their engines throttled low to mask vibration signatures. 2 command jeeps followed while 4 armed escorts scanned the ridges through heat vision scopes. Every vehicle carried steel containers marked ALH455, each holding more than 1,000 pounds of explosive material. At ground level, it was invisible, a moving shape swallowed by early fog. But from 250 miles above, an orbital lens saw everything. The Lantern space system satellite over Kyiv caught a signature flicker through the Crimean haze, not by light, but by residual heat reflecting off freshly fueled engines. That pattern, captured seconds before sunrise, entered an analytic pipeline that turned a faint outline into coordinates precise enough to lock down a firing grid. Ukraine's command node tagged the movement as Priority Code 7, activating an operation recorded as Night Veil. Analysts at 3 separate stations pulled in data from infrared, radio, and acoustic layers. What appeared to be civilian cargo soon revealed its actual cargo. 15 tactical missiles with a total potential blast weight exceeding 16,000 pounds of TNT equivalent. The data revealed their direction, intent, and a projected rest stop near an abandoned fuel depot that had once supplied Russian armor in early 2023. Predictive AI mapped the route, aligning weather models, terrain reflection, and acoustic footsteps to create a live heat map showing motion by temperature differential rather than light range. Every turn, every engine idling too long, appeared as a changing gradient on an interactive model projected across the operations feed. Russian forces believed silence was security. Their convoy used encrypted radio bursts spaced every 5 minutes, assuming the gaps would bury them in static. Instead, those same bursts became locators. Every signal bounce, every frequency echo was cross-referenced with orbiting Reaper MQ-9 feeds and ground-based listening posts equipped with an experimental system known as ECHOT Trap. The ECHOT Trap platforms, call signs Echo 1 and Echo 2, were twin MTLB armored carriers positioned beneath radar cover. Powered by twin 4-kilowatt emitters, they carried a unique electronic warfare suite capable of turning interference into visibility. When enemy jamming tried to blur the grid, the ECHOT Trap locked onto the waveform, inverted the phase, amplified the return, and reflected it straight back to its source. This created bursts of data that not only revealed the jammer's location, but temporarily disoriented its sensors. The result was a mirrored kind of blindness, Russia's own attempts at concealment illuminating their exact position. Operators inside a Ukrainian mobile command post worked in near silence. Monitors lit with cascading timestamps, each signal logged to the millisecond. A predictive AI plotted convoy speed, factoring slope gradients and ambient temperature decay. The pattern showed one crucial constant. The convoy would cross into Russian territory at precisely 3:33 a.m. That threshold mattered. Protocol required full incursion confirmation before strike authorization. For 5 long minutes, no one spoke. The only audible sound inside the command truck was the low hum of coolant pumps and the rhythmic tick of sequencing relays waiting for the signal to unlock. At 3:33, authorization cleared. By 3:35, Orlan 10 drones above the corridor began emitting 4.3 gigahertz bursts, forming a jamming sphere 10 miles wide. But the effect reversed almost immediately. The ECHOT Trap caught those emissions, flipped their wavelength, and projected them back, creating a perfect blackout dome that blinded the convoy's defense grid. Within that 172-second window, radar, communications, and targeting optics all reported null feedback. The convoy became invisible to itself. No alarms, no guidance data, only internal static. Operators saw the last accurate coordinates freeze mid-readout. Then, the sensors went dark. The assault logic activated, converting data into vector paths and target priorities. What happened next would be recorded in military archives as 5 minutes of perfect math. The blackout across the corridor held steady as 20 FPV drones rose in staggered ascent, each one guided by pre-programmed flight paths. Operators in the Ukrainian command truck watched their screens flicker at identical intervals. Timing was the key. Every launch separated by just a few hundred milliseconds, forming a sequence that looked more like computer code than human control. These drones were small, only a few kilograms each, but together they carried more kinetic potential than a full artillery strike. Their engines leveled out at 70 meters altitude, heading toward the convoy that still had no idea it was blind. This would be a 5-minute operation with no second chances. The priority order was simple but surgical. 10 drones were locked on fuel carriers, 5 assigned to missile trailers, and 5 bound for command vehicles at the rear. Each role mattered. Hitting the fuel trucks first wasn't just to ignite them. It was a deliberate move to cause disarray and mask the following impacts under thermal and acoustic overload. If even one drone lost GPS lock or veered off course, the entire pattern risked collapsing. The fire from the diesel payloads had to build at the precise moment the second wave arrived. That synchronization demanded absolute trust in pre-coded logic. Humans couldn't fly fast enough to adjust if something went wrong. At 3:35:48, the first FPV locked onto its target, a fuel truck containing roughly 620 gallons of diesel. Its last frame footage captured the edge of a metallic tank before a brief white flash ended the feed. The explosion that followed erupted into a column of fire about 65 feet high, burning at temperatures above 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit. Instruments from distant monitoring posts logged a brief seismic pulse, reading 3.2 on local sensors. The blast was powerful enough to flip nearby trucks onto their sides and scatter burning fuel across the ground, turning the narrow route into a torch line that swallowed the convoy's center. 10 seconds later, as the heat distorted the air and visibility failed, the second flight group descended. Their coordinates were already fixed to the exposed missile trailers carrying Fate 110 units. The detonation cracked through the aluminum casings, igniting residual propellant and triggering sympathetic chain reactions across adjacent loads. Each secondary blast tore apart structural frames that seconds earlier had been intact. Within a minute, the entire formation of 15 missile trucks was in flames. Thermal sensors recorded a central heat spike nearing 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt wiring and deform steel. The concussive wave blew out nearby windows and left the ground fractured beneath the convoy. As the explosions mirrored off the terrain, defensive systems woke too late. The Russian-operated Pancer S-1 battery, on overwatch duty, received corrupted radar signals due to the reflected waveforms from the Ekot trap interference field. Believing phantom coordinates to be incoming aircraft, the Pancer crew launched 3 interceptors into clear sky. Each missile cost over $270,000 and hit nothing but empty space. By then, most of the convoy was disintegrating under the chain detonation. When the smoke began to thin, all 20 drones had completed their runs. The attack's cost totaled less than $25,000 in equipment. What they destroyed, though, was estimated at over $120 million in hardware and munitions. The efficiency ratio, a staggering 1 to 5,000, would later become a reference point across military briefings worldwide. Where heavy artillery once defined dominance, now low-cost precision and electronic manipulation dictated outcomes. When the heat faded, the data mattered more than the smoke. Operators logged debris weight, loss value, and strike duration to the millisecond, translating chaos into measurable proof. The numbers told a blunt story. 20 low-cost drones had eliminated over $100 million in assets without a single soldier exposed. It wasn't viewed as destruction, but demonstration. Efficiency itself had become a weapon. The idea that affordable circuitry could bypass million-dollar defenses began to reshape doctrine overnight, marking a quiet adjustment in deterrence. Power measured not by volume of fire, but by precision per second.